So this is Margaret Ann Windsor, and I'm continuing on another tape. Um, so Lionel Dempsey, real name is Margaret Ann Windsor, and Peggy Ann Dempsey, married at Childers, is the name given me when I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace and placed in Moulton, Alabama in 41. Um, so I'm at Dempsey's, and I've just gotten out of this 123 across the state line hospitals, so-called hospitals, when they're used as a murder weapon. um, I go in against my will, and she had to have gone to a nursery school or something, and she got there are these posters that unfold, and they look like they came from a nursery school. And it's got Humpty Dumpty set on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men can never put Humpty together again. Well, this is, she was told to do it, among some other things she did to me then. Um, and I'm helpless. I have nowhere to call. My ex-husband has my apartment. He has my sons. And by that time, I get it, you know. Um, so, in other words, she's been told to do that, and all the king's horses can't put me together again. I'm the daughter of King Edward VIII, and they destroyed me, my brain, systematically, and I'm not going back to 63. What happened? I've done that in other tapes, and if I can, I'll put that part on here. But it was a living hell while I was there. She continued, I'm going to have you locked up and sent to Tuscaloosa, which was the state. She says, I have friends here, judges like Judge McCoy, that'll send you away. And she was trying to. I remember, though, that I had a divorce decree that anything my ex-husband ever had, how did that go? It would be half mine, which he didn't have anything that I knew of at the time, but there was a settlement to where he paid, was supposed to pay, he didn't child support and alimony. Well, I never got any of the alimony, which would have kept me off the street, is what happened to me. I mean, they put me flat on the street. But when I'm at Lana's, this woman I was told to call mother, and choked on it every time. Um, she told me that her Judge McCoy, that she was going to have put me away, that he had my divorce papers. What's he doing with my divorce papers? I don't even know this man at the time. So I go down to his office and remember, I'm being threatened with mental health again to lock me up, send me to the state. Look at what they've just done to me. I went into his law office, and I was really afraid to, but I asked to see my divorce decree. Why did they have it? Because they don't have to answer to me. They did show it to me. They did have it. Well, this would have given me money had it been enforced. So that's her attorney. So I go to work, believe it or not, in the middle of May, I believe it was, for the Madison County District Attorney's Office, Fred Simpson. So you get into Simpson patterns that emerged. Simpson, as in clues to my identity, Wallace Warfield Simpson was supposed to marry my father, which it was a lie. She married an imposter. But that's the setup, and I'm living at Warren House. I finally, when I went to work for him, got the money and moved into Warren House, which Warren House is like symbolic of the Warren Commission and the Kennedy cover-up, which is really covering up my kidnapping, is what it's doing. So I worked there, and that's when John Lennon was killed in November of that year. And the district attorney's office, well, let's put it this way, I didn't have a job after, let's just say he was reelected. And she was helping run his campaign. How's that? She was with George Wallace when he was shot in Laurel. again, the word Laurel, Maryland, and the guy was programmed. This is what I'm telling you. People were programmed to shoot. And I was thinking for one moment George Wallace liked her, but she was actually there with him when he was shot. So, coincidence? No. But anyway, she's threatening me with having me locked up and saying I'm crazy. That's what she's threatening me with. I didn't know at the time it's because she had fear of exposure, that if the book or if I found out about my kidnapping, that she would face the death penalty on killing the twins. So I'm without a job, and it's hard to pay my rent without a job, and I'm looking and looking, and I finally go to work for Golden Triangle Publishing, and it was for Doyle Duke, as in the Duke of Windsor was supposed to. So you follow me on that. My jobs and etc. held symbolisms that were in patterns associated with, and I still hadn't found out about my kidnapping. So I worked there until it goes bankrupt, but I found out that Clarice and Mr. Duke were they worked for the CIA. So it closed down, Golden Triangle, yeah. So then I really had a bad time finding a job. I ended up trying to go back to Atlanta. I was always trying to I thought my husband had moved the apartment. And I was trying to find my sons. I had no phone number. I had nothing. I couldn't go back even if I had the money, or he was going to have me locked up. And by the way, he's the one that got the tox screen from Crestwood Hospital. He wouldn't let me have it. He actually got the copy and gave it to me. So I kept that on me and turned it over to the media, who would do nothing with it. And they wouldn't touch any of this. Well, your media is controlled by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, the people that kidnapped me, but most people just hate my guts. It's like I'm offending them by telling them what they've done to me or doing to me. Well, at that time, I didn't know about being kidnapped and my real name. But anyway, I survived through, let me put it this way. I did get a ticket, had enough money to get a bus ticket. I'm getting the timing confused. I still, when I left there, I still, Golden Triangle. Okay, no, I didn't. I managed to pay my rent November the 1st of, 81? And all the time she's threatening me that she has people that are going to put me away. And she's trying to take stuff. She's trying to provoke me. And I remember she came up unannounced. Well, she never announced herself. She would just barrel in doing things she wanted to me. And I remember she tried to say that she slipped on the balcony there and tried to say I pushed her or something. I wasn't even near her. So anyway, she was trying to frame me and setting me up and had me locked up and use the mental health. So anyway, November the 1st or 2nd, I went into Warren House and paid my full month's rent. As I walked back, there's a police car sitting there. And I walk up and I said, "Can I help you?" And they said, "Yes, we're looking for Peggy Childers." Well, that was a shock. The next thing I know, I'm handcuffed, and I'm hauled off to the mental ward in Huntsville at Fifth Avenue under the orders of Lana Dempsey. She had gotten a court order, and she was doing exactly what she had said. So Jack Hartsfield was a reporter for the Huntsville Times, and I had become a friend, and I got a phone call to him, and I had an attorney that was associated with the Wayne Williams, which is another mind control, Mary Welcome and everything, but Henry Mims, yeah, I was the attorney. And so I had him for an attorney, and thank God he kept them from giving me psychotic drugs or anything. But I was there for a month, and that was hell. I might as well just leave that off. Remember, I just paid my rent. So when I get out, and Jack Hartsfield saved my life. He really did. And when I got out, Jack and a friend of his, who was professor at the University of Alabama, had been, in sociology, I went to her home, and I spent a couple of nights and ate Thanksgiving dinner. So when I go back now to Warren House, they've cleaned out my apartment. I heard the sheriff that when I went to work for the VA, I had to pass a background check. So here I am. He's come in and he's helping her now, and cleaned out my apartment and everything. So I'm back in my apartment, and now then the whole month's gone, and I'd paid the rent. Now then rent's due again. Well, I've been locked up, and I can't pay the rent, and I don't really know what's happening anyway. Now I'm back to getting evicted. I can't get a job. It's winter. And I end up getting on a bus because the apartment's, I'm going to be evicted. So this is back, I guess, the end of December of 81. I get on the bus, and I'm getting off in the middle of night, no food or anything. I'm losing my things. I think Jack's friend was keeping a few of my things for me. And he paid for me to stay at the Barclay, the bus driver did. And I called my ex-husband's place. I didn't know where they lived. I thought they'd moved from the apartment that I had that he had taken over. Now then, I called where he had worked at R.J. Reynolds, driving a truck, supposedly, dispatching, or driving a truck. I called Terry, the dispatcher. There's a couple of Terrys, and I called them and trying to find his phone number. And I told him where I was, if he could find John. And next thing I know, my ex-husband shows up at the Barclay, and he threatens to have me locked up. He said, I'll do what Lina Dempsey had done to you. Well, my son Scott was with him, and he stood there and begged. He said, Dad, at least give her a little bit of money, please. Well, my ex-husband was never good to Scott. John was a psychopath. He played the boys against each other. So here he goes and takes my son because I have nowhere to go, and my son's begging him to help me. And I end up calling the marshal, Carnwright, that I hired when I thought he was a security, had a security firm. I ended up calling him, and he took me out to his home in Marietta and with his wife, and I spent a few nights there. And I looked up on the wall, and there's a picture, and it's got him, and it's got U.S. Marshal, Oklahoma Territory. And I remember saying to his wife, I said, I thought his name was Marshall. I said, he is the U.S. Marshal. And she said, yes, but he's retired. Well, he wasn't retired. So I'll leave it at that. I was put on the bus back to Huntsville because I have nowhere to go. Atlanta's a big town. I'd had a home, but I no longer have it. I'm under the threat wherever I go with no money of being locked up and called crazy, using the mental health to kill me and torture me. So I get on the bus. I think he paid for it, the marshal did, Carnwright. And I'm getting off the bus in Huntsville, and I think Jack picked me up. And somehow I got the message that I had a job waiting for me that I'd applied for. And the lady that lived next door to me at Warren House allowed me to stay with her 2 weeks. And I'm going to start the next tape.